They keep telling next week. Way before the budget.
What?
Oh, next week. Oh, in a week. And then this.
They never lost.
Good evening, everybody. We're going to call this second session back to order. Earlier, we had an executive session where we discussed contract negotiations and a pending personnel legal matter. So we'd like to open the public sessions. We'll start off with a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As I think all of you are aware, we had a major event last week involving our referendum. And I think we would be remiss if we did not focus on directed comments around the table to start off the meeting. I think this allows us to clear the air, so to speak, from some board members' perspectives, also to set a tone of the significance that we feel towards the referendum. I'll start off doing this, and then I'll allow board members to bring it forward and then finish up.
Do we want to adopt an agenda?
Oh, I think we do want to do that too. Okay,
If you will. No,
motion to adopt the agenda. Mr. Casey, Mrs. Rajat, all in favor? So, thank you for clearing that one up. I first would like to thank the community for the participation in the referendum. This is something we've never seen before. Clearly, this was a message on how they felt about it. Each voter had the opportunity to take in information from their perspective, and there were multitudes of perspectives that came into people on this. I'm very proud of the fact that I don't think we let anybody in the community feel disenfranchised. I think that everybody had the opportunity to participate and convey their thoughts. I would also like to convey that this is far different than we typically have operated. This became a campaign around a topic, and generally we tend to focus on specific things involving education because we're all about education here. It became one thing that directed a lot of energy, attention, and comment. But every voter had the opportunity to decide, and I don't believe anybody was disenfranchised from it. Clearly the message is, and the outcome will be, that we will not pursue the development opportunity with BBL. That was also a development opportunity to bring forward parking to the community. And I think that comment leads to a key point, is that a lot of the things that created the tension and frustration was that we combined a lot of issues onto one thing. And it created a lot of attention directed, but also a lot of different interpretations by everybody involved, good and bad. But clearly the message is not to proceed. The message and the outcome was that. And also the outcome is this land remains in the public domain. That was one of the key comments brought forward. I think that I look at this from a contextual aspect, and that is typically our role here is to deliberate on key topics that affect the education of our students, the outcome of our district. We rarely negotiate and we rarely campaign. I don't think ever have campaigned around a topic. And doing so, we went into a campaign mode. Clearly, by 9 p.m. on 4th of April, that ended. But at the same time, I think we're somewhat in a negotiation mode. And that is not a path that I feel comfortable pursuing. I would much rather be in a mode of deliberately reviewing the topic, getting back to an understanding of how we got to where we did, rather than trying to treat it as a public negotiation back and forth. That can come forward with time, but my belief is we're better served by talking it through, clearing the air personally, and clearing the air with the community over how this came about. And I encourage the board members to speak to that as they see comfortable with it. And I'd just like to end up that we are about education. We're not about managing land per se, but we also have to apply the use of our land very much in a legal context within the state. There are a lot of critical laws that both constrain us and set expectations. We will continue to do that as we move forward, and we look forward to doing this, to moving forward. So that being the case, I'll turn it over to other board members. Mrs. Stevenson, would you like to make comments?
I would like to make a comment tonight. Thank you, Bob. I just want to give a few pieces tonight, and I want to certainly focus on the positives. First off, I want to acknowledge the reason why the 7 of us sit around this table, and that is for the students that benefit from our forward-thinking district, as well as our collaboration. It is a great tribute to the quality of our work as seen through the teaching staff here tonight that are some are at their early stages of their career, and others we are seeing sunset theirs. I also want to acknowledge Dr. Robinson, although the 7 of us know that not every day is roses in his world. He is consistent in his message and goals for this district, as I heard him a few weeks ago at Superintendent's Conference Day. You could actually feel the positivity in that room when he delivered that message to the teaching staff. I also want to acknowledge and thank some key members in our district office. I am sure the last couple of months have been daunting. I want to thank Kathy Wentmore Chase and her staff for the many hours that they spent getting everything set for the April 4th referendum, while simultaneously preparing for a budget in a year that there are a host of unknowns. I also want to thank Kelly DeFiciani for her consistent dedication to a district that she pours her heart and soul into. Finally, I want to comment to my colleagues tonight. One of my reasons for running for this board was the ability to work with 6 other people that I highly admire. In the past several months, collectively, it seems some have decided to follow their own path, and I am not here to judge, but telling you as a neophyte to this board, I am looking forward to some reflection and internal healing. It is our decision to run, to sit here amongst each other, but it is the community that places their trust in us to be their voice. On April 4th, I heard loud and clear from a large sector of the community. I want you all to feel the same way. I am in hopes that after we are through this budget cycle, that I am sure all that have supported our district and children will do so again, to sit around a table and start to get a strategic plan in place for the land that was put back under the district domain. I request that we start these discussions in latter part of May or early part of June. Bob, we look to you as our leader to deliver on the expectations that have been set before us from our community. Thank you.
Can I just ask a question before you move? Did you want all of our comments or just the land comments right now? I don't want you to go over to Deanna if there's more to say.
Let's go with land comments. Okay, okay, go ahead.
And actually, to be honest with you, I always have to follow Mrs. Stevenson, so I can't say it any more beautifully than she has, and I know Bill has other things to say, so due to time, I'll just pass along.
So I'm the impatient one up here. I think this district can walk and chew gum at the same time. And I think we can do more than one thing. And I worry about this budget that we're going to talk about tonight. I worry that people there isn't a residual effect from the vote no's out there on our activities. I think this community has shown tremendous support for what we've done over the years. And I think especially back to Oliver in the time you've been here. This is the first time we've seen a no on anything. And I felt that we did not communicate well with the community. So I'm interested in what our plans are to clear the air with the community moving forward. I think one of the pieces of the community that we need to respond to is Supervisor Barrett, who contacted us, stayed out of the fray, at times commented when some of the information got out there that seemed to be limiting between towns or something, commented on it but stayed out of the fray. And so he's publicly contacted us in terms of willingness to meet and discuss. And we had discussions with him, as people at this table certainly know, in the last year. They didn't come to a fruitful end. We made progress, and I'm not sure that we were able to clearly lay out our expectations and the parameters of what we wanted. And I'm not sure he had the opportunity to lay out what his limits were. He did in dollars, but beyond that, I think there's more discussion. I think this community expects that we work together clearly. And so I would urge that instead of waiting a while, that we at least have a subcommittee of people who start a small subcommittee, not 4 people on the board, but 2 people from the board to start a discussion with the town. And I'm probably in the minority in that. But I feel strongly that we owe it to this community I forget a lot of things in life, but I don't forget a lot of numbers. And so I want you to remember these numbers, 23, 23, and 54, 42. We have not, and perhaps once in my 48 years at Shenendehowa, seen a negative number so clearly stated as that. And I think it's a message to us. We can think, we can process, and we want to get a budget through. And sitting around this table, we all will. I predict we'll all vote enthusiastically for this budget tonight moving forward, and we hope the community does as well. But I think the community is looking for more from us. I think there was a message here, and so I hope we follow that. I hope we get together. Take some people that were pro sides and that were against sides, and we take a couple people together, one from each side, and do something. And I think we owe a response to the supervisor of Clifton Park, and I just say that from one point. The other is that the good news is, Mr. Presley, I agree with you. The property stays in the public domain in the current state that it's in the meantime. And I think people have. There have been a lot more people, I think, walking through that property, and they have appreciation of that. But me, as part of the community, spoke clearly on this, and we expect action from the district. I look forward to seeing the results of the exit polls that we're supposed to get in 2 weeks. That will give us some guidance. But as we tried to worked on getting questions, we didn't want to have it as a Chinese menu that people could go through and pick and choose where they wanted to be. We're looking for some demographic information and some general information and comments. So I look forward to getting that. But I personally am looking for action, and I will continue to look for it, and I'll continue to talk about it. The other thing that came up in this campaign, and it was a campaign, there's no question, was the issue of land in Half Moon. And while it wasn't the subject of the referendum, the district and several board members tied the two together oftentimes, and citing the 2011 Futures Report. And that report is dated. But I absolutely support moving forward with beginning a search, looking for property, figuring out how we even buy property, which would be step number one, and also going back and looking at the Futures Report, which recommended some actions, which I don't think we have started. Maybe we haven't completed them, that were called in order to move forward on that. I think it would be in our best interest. One of the words that was used a lot during this campaign was fiduciary responsibility, and the fiduciary responsibility is invest early. One of the pieces of that is to invest early so that you avoid lack of inventory and prices rising. And I think we ought to be talking about that in the same time. I don't think it has the same urgency in terms of action. I think we've got some research that we need to do in terms of what the law requires of us, and I don't think we know what that is today. And at the same time, we've got to figure out how we're going to engage that community of realtors and owners in something that we start a search and try to put, again, as a board at some point, put some parameters around what we're looking for. Those reports talk about 10 acres, 20 acres, 30 acres, 60 acres, and if you roll them all into one, Gary and I talked today, and at one point on that Futures Committee where we both were, we talked about ideally 80 acres. That would give us total flexibility. We need to figure that out.
Okay.
So I would urge us to do that. But I think the response to the town of Clifton Park and the response to the voters is something that we owe them. I think they will trust us, and they will support a budget that we're presenting, which is very competitive with what everybody's done and what we've done over the number of years, the predictability we've got, the predictability now and going forward. But I think they're looking for more from us, and I think delaying too long, we fall short.
Okay. Mrs. Blaber?
I'll be brief and just say I look forward to having all those people come back on May 16th when we have the budget bus and board seats. That's an exciting energy to have that many people on campus. And I look really forward to putting the focus of attention of resources and thought on education for children of the school district.
Okay.
And that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Dewala?
My desire going forward would be that any damage that has been done to the reputation of the board and the interplay of the various factions was repaired. That indeed the board did not ever have a hidden agenda. The board never had any personal gains that were involved. And I think the community ought to know that we've been trying to be honest brokers. It might be interesting for some of those people in the audience, perhaps all, to realize that when it came right down to it, there wasn't a single person on this board that wouldn't have liked to have seen that land become a park. We talked about that early on. It just didn't work. And conditions got to be such that it seemed to make sense to go a little different route, a combination, you might say, of things that seemed like it was a very desirable solution. But I think more than any of those generalities, Bill already spoke to the one that really concerns me the most, and that is that any misunderstanding about the ultimate need for having some additional land for construction of schools in the future would be dispelled. I don't think we ever contended that the need was immediate. The need to acquire the land was immediate because as time passes, the land goes away and so forth and so on, as it's got up by builders and so forth. But the need remains. And we could be very simplistic and say, well, we have X number of students and we've got X number of classrooms and therefore we have a certain capacity. But the reality is it's never a straight line. The reality is that there are either mandates handed to us or desirable programs that we want to add that have an impact on capacity. I was just having a discussion with a friend the other day, and we're talking about the huge housing stock we have in Clifton Park that's occupied by people like me, no longer have children at home. There will not be that many more years before those homes are owned by someone else. They happen to be reasonably priced homes compared to what's being constructed today. So who's going to move into those houses? Younger families with children. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a new house built in Half Moon or Clifton Park or any of the other desirable communities that make up this district. Just rolling over the stock of homes is enough to make a significant difference. And one of the problems with that one is it's almost impossible to predict how that's going to happen, when it's going to happen, to what degree it's going to happen. So I want the community to understand that there is a genuine need and we're trying to be proactive. We will figure out a way to move forward. But it is something we really need to do. It wasn't a fabrication to sell something.
Mr. Gilbert?
So I got to be the last one to speak, so everybody said everything. In all seriousness, and I know it's been said multiple times, I think it was an impressive act of democracy, the amount of people that came out and voted. The system was in place to have the vote went through, and the people spoke. I think whatever our next steps will be, and I don't know what our next step should be, I am not convinced that the only option is to negotiate with the town. Maybe that is the best option. I'm not going to make a decision yes or no on any of those at that point. I think the one thing we do need to do, though, is as we continue to evaluate what the next step should be, is I fully support engaging the public. I don't know what engaging the public means. I'm not sure how we do that. We need to talk about that, but I think it needs to be done not in a vacuum. So I fully support that, and we'll continue to do that. And I have no doubt that we'll find the best way to do that, that makes sure that all voices are heard, not just one group or another. So, those are my comments.
For Mrs. Blaber's comment, I'll finish kind of wrapping up on the land side. All good comments. Appreciate this back and forth and discussion and sharing your perspectives at the table. I think that's where it sits. I'm pretty sure we'll have more comments coming from members of the community. Shifting over to the other side of what we do, and the majority of what we do is we just want to say magnificent job by middle schoolers on our class play last weekend. These kids do amazing things in drama, both the middle school and high school, and it's one of the great programs we have. Not all school districts have anything like this, and our kids are doing that on a regular basis. Coming up tomorrow, you're going to have a Jazz Fest. Okay, this is not a program where we have just the kids. Every year we bring in a professional level musician who then works with the kids a couple days before, and then they play for 2 hours. Each group of kids, and we have, I think, 6 jazz bands, gets to play a song with a professional level musician. And that's what our kids experience here. And that's indicative of what we do happening every day in all kinds of ways, sports, the arts, academics, activities, and that's what we've been able to provide for students here. And that's something I truly hope that we can continue. That's what makes this district very special, and that is what we're going to focus on, I think, once we finish properly discussing the land deal, and I'll turn it over to my colleagues to continue about other issues, other things they want to bring forward.
I'll pass this point to you,
Okay.
Krista. Let you have this one.
Talking about our drama clubs, and that I had the opportunity, as many other board members had, to attend the High School Musical Company's performance of Phantom. And I must say, I'm always impressed by the talent that we have here in this district. But at one point during the show, I must say, I sat there and I almost forgot I was at Shenendehowa. I felt I was like at Proctor's. The level of talent that all the students had, but especially the lead students had, was phenomenal. And it was phenomenal. And I just would like to encourage more people to support our students, not only, again, through athletics and all that, but also through the performing arts. And again, it was just a privilege to be there and be a part of that spectacular show. And I have to say, Phantom is one of my favorite shows, so I'm very much a critic. So for me to say, bar none, it was one of the best performances, and that's comparing it to some professional groups as well. Also had the opportunity to attend Cap Teen's Real Talk on diversity. A great panel discussion pursued with that, but also to see, once again, our students being leaders in this community to talk about some topics that sometimes may not always be easy topics to talk about, but just their professionalism in working with the panels, asking questions to those that participated. It was a nice showing. I just wish more people would attend these kinds of panels, again, that our students put so much effort into and bringing the community together on topics such as diversity. And then talking about diversity, we had the sensational celebration a couple of weekends. Was it 2 weekends ago, Kelly? I can't even. It all blends together 2 weekends ago. Again, very well attended. Always pleased to see that. Kids of all ages, families from all over participating, having a musician like Brian Melick, and who used handmade instruments from repurposed items, and had kids make instruments as well from repurposed items, and they all performed. Also, 518 breakdancing and hip hop group came in and got people involved. Really exciting time. Again, just more community people involved, and it's always wonderful to see that, seeing all the buzz that's going on, but also great opportunity, again, to celebrate diversity that we have here in the Shen community. One of the things I also serve on the district's diversity committee, and one of the things we're talking about is there's so many different activities and events that go on throughout the entire school district, looking at doing more of a concerted effort to have this continue on throughout the year and have Shen Sensational be more of like a culminating celebration for folks. But again, that's not just a one-time-a-year thing that we want to do, but continue throughout the year. So again, just very, very pleased to be able to see, again, once again, showcase the talents of our students in district.
I just want to mention one thing, actually, on what Christina said. Phantom was spectacular, and I thought that Heather Baird and the crew and the students, certainly. I thought, from coming here for years to the annual spring production, I thought this was among the most difficult, challenging performances that they had to plan. They had so much talent that it was, I wanted to come back, actually. We were there on Saturday night and sitting in a row with Oliver, because the backup people here were just as good as it was hard to tell who was the backup and who wasn't, but it was an inspiring performance of what we can do here.
Mrs. Blaber?
I want to echo the remarks about Phantom. You've said them. It was just incredible. And on an 80-degree day, harken back a second to recognize the effort of facilities folks who may be here tonight. We did say something about transportation, but the effort that they went through to remove snow in an actual blizzard, that our school district at every level is so focused on safety and consideration for travelers, visitors, pedestrians, and obviously our students. I just want to acknowledge the facilities department, which I don't think we've done before, and certainly it's all melted now, but it remains a vivid memory. We did mention in the past that Rhodesboro was recognized with the Woody Flowers Award at the robotics competition at RPI. What I don't think we knew at the time was that the team also received the Gracious Professionalism Award for the bajillionth time. So it's great to receive and sort of not surprising. But there's a parent who was also recognized as Volunteer of the Year, whose daughter has graduated from Shen. She's not a Shen, she's a Shen alum parent, and she's still involved, and was recognized as the Volunteer of the Year for the region. So 3 awards from that competition at RPI. Sensational, reminded me of Epcot, and I was happy to be there for the bagpipes, and just as happy with the young helper from the superintendent's office in hip hop, who had no compunction whatsoever to get up there on the stage and perform with those gentlemen and ladies. I also want to recognize the student artwork that was on display at Empire State Plaza. Shen was extremely well represented at that show, and I want to acknowledge them. And also make mention of what this community is like when we experience a loss. And we've experienced 2 recently. And the colleagues of Derek Dayton had a beautiful memorial service here for him. And a neighboring school district wanted to pay it forward to us. And so they sent, I think it was breakfast or lunch, I can't remember. Was it breakfast? Forts Ferry Elementary School sent breakfast to Coda after Erica Ledoux died and said we'd pay it forward. And I just thought, how sweet is that our other school districts would be kind enough to acknowledge what our school community was going through, having experienced a loss in their school community as well. And I think they deserve our attention and gratitude as well. That's it.
Mr. Zawala?
As you know, I'm also a member of the BOCES board, and we are in the process of hiring a new district superintendent. And we've actually worked our way down to 2 people from, I believe it was 14, of which we originally, actually called in for interviews, about 10 of them. And I'm looking forward over the course of the next 3 or 4 weeks to actually identify the individual that will be the district superintendent. We're kind of like we were here 12 years ago? 12 years ago. We clearly had one individual, he's sitting down there at the other end of the table, who was heads and shoulders over the next guy that we were looking at. And I believe that happens to be the case in the BOCES superintendency. But we will, and it happens, well, I'm not going to say that. I would be disclosing the gender of the individual, so I can't do that. The individual I think we'll wind up with will be a worthy replacement. And that reminded me of something that's much closer to home. We are also in a very critical search for a replacement for our high school principal. And I've known this gentleman from before he was here. And I knew when he was going to apply, and I was so grateful that he was. and he has fully fulfilled all expectations and above. Uh, I don't know, without casting aspersions on anyone, and that certainly is not the intention. We had a difficult situation in the high school prior to Mr. Flynn's arrival. Secondary teachers can be a tough bunch. I was one. I'm not speaking out of school, and they're not necessarily individuals that see themselves as subordinates. They see themselves more as independent contractors. And so to get them all pulling in the same direction and working together and having a common vision is a tremendous accomplishment. And I think Mr. Flint has done that. And that really is no small feat. So our focus is to find someone who will be able to step into his shoes and then maybe grow into them, because I don't think we're going to find somebody that immediately fits into his shoes. I'm very grateful that we've had him. But this is just one of the many things that we've got ongoing here that are very, very important that we have to accomplish. And of course, getting a budget passed and moving forward is probably number one.
Mr. Gilbert?
I am going to pass in the interest of time.
Okay. I'm pretty much done. I've had everything I wanted to bring forward, so at this point, we'll turn it over to student public comments. Can we have our two students make their way forward? As they do that, I'll go through the write-up. This is an opportunity for the public to address the Board of Education. If so, please complete a comment form if you're a resident who wants to speak. The board will not address specific comments, but ask for your name and address and event follow-up as necessary. We remind residents that the public comment of our meeting is only one item on the long agenda. We therefore ask each speaker to be as succinct as possible and that remarks be limited to 2 to 3 minutes. We also expect residents to speak in a respectful and courteous manner, so we ask to model proper civility and decorum for our students. Residents may also contact the board via email at boe@chenet.org. All questions come in the Office of the Public Information Officer and are shared with the board and the superintendent as appropriate. Policy questions and concerns are typically addressed by the board president. Operational questions typically addressed by the superintendent and our designee. So go ahead, please.
All right. So currently in the Senate, we're kind of in a transition period. All of our biggest big events, with the exception of the Speak Out, are done with. So we're discussing what went well with those, what didn't go well with those, and brainstorming for next year. That's pretty much it.
Also, the date for the Speak Out has been set as May 15th, and we discussed with the Speak Out committee heads, and they said they're going to integrate the homework and grading policy into the topic of the Speak Out. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead. Next public comment. And if we could have others that would like to speak, if you could line up behind Mrs. Burton, please.
Good evening. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Megan De La Rosa, and I am the proud president of the Shenendehowa Teachers Association. I'm pleased to be here this evening at what has become my favorite Board of Education meeting of the school year. Please understand, I don't mean any disrespect to the members of the Board of Education or the administrative staff that regularly present at meetings. However, I actually look forward to this particular meeting more than any others because it's such a wonderful opportunity to juxtapose two of the major professional milestones in the career of a Shenendehowa Teachers Association member. Both acknowledge bright futures ahead, one as a retiree where the light at the end of the tunnel is so bright, and the other as a soon-to-be tenured teacher where that same light is dim, but the way there is filled with lots of bright spots. I want to take this opportunity to share my appreciation with the Board of Education for once again celebrating the professional successes of 30 accomplished STA members. 9 choosing to finish their careers here at Shen as they retire in June, or 1 earlier than that, and 21 firmly establishing their careers here as they are recommended for tenure. As humble individuals by nature, educators often seek limelight not for their own acknowledgement, but rather to shine that light on their students. To those of you humble individuals in the audience, tonight it's about you, so that those important professional milestones are not overlooked or overshadowed. Whether just starting out or just winding down, these professional milestones encompass numerous student highlights and a large compilation of many special events, all of which deserve to be celebrated. So again, I express my gratitude to the Board of Education for not allowing these milestones to come and go unrecognized. Among our 9 STA retirees, you have a combined total of over 175 years of service here at Shen. During that time, you have served our students and our professional community in many different capacities, working with students across all ends of the spectrum and everyone in between. Your work has also extended beyond your classrooms and your offices, having served as club and activity advisors, coaches, committee members, event chaperones, STA leaders, and most importantly, role models. Before joining us here at Shen, some of our retiring colleagues came to us with experience from other districts and even other states. And others have dedicated their entire careers to our Shen families. Your contributions to our district, our students, and our organization, based on your professional and life experiences, cannot be measured or replaced. At the opposite end of the career spectrum tonight, we also acknowledge and celebrate those STA members who will prospectively be granted tenure as elementary teachers, secondary teachers, second language teachers, unified arts teachers, and a counselor. We are so excited to have you firmly established as members of our professional community here at Shen. As with our retirees, many of you have come to us with previous experiences, but you have also already contributed so much to our students and our district. I look forward to continue working beside you and have no doubt we will be a better district and a better organization because of you. To our retirees in the audience, including Mr. Flint, our high school principal, and our CSEA colleagues, on behalf of all 700 plus members of the Shenendehowa Teachers Association, we thank you for your countless hours of tireless dedication to our districts, our students, and our organization. We truly and sincerely wish each and every one of you all the best in your upcoming retirement. And to our tenure recipients, on behalf of your colleagues, we thank you for all that you've already contributed to our district, our students, and our organization. And we all look forward to continuing our work together for many, many years to come. We wish each of you our most heartfelt congratulations. Thank you.
Well done, Megan.
My name is Susan Burton, and I'm coming here to speak on behalf of Friends of Clifton Park Open Space. The residents of Shenendehowa School District spoke at the polls on April 4th, and the Friends of Clifton Park Open Space is extremely grateful for their involvement, their support, and their ideas. We could not have accomplished the outstanding result on April 4th without the demonstrated civic pride and hard work of thousands of people. So on their behalf, we come to the board again and ask that you work with the town of Clifton Park to keep this property in the public domain. We urge you to act quickly before the budget vote to avoid disappointing these voters again. The residents' resounding rejection of the resolution to sell the 34 acres of pristine open space at the edge of the area's growing retail district for more development speaks to the importance of the parcel. It says that, although valuable, the land's measure cannot be taken only in dollars and cents. Issues around quality of life, the vitality of the town center, and the well-documented increased value of other properties around open space parcels should also be taken into account. However, another consistent string of comments during this process has revolved around the quality of education in the Shenendehowa School District and the value residents see in the school district as a reason for living in our towns. To our mind, the school board could sell the property to the town and let them deal with the land issues and public expectations at this point. Then the school board can continue to concentrate on education issues because that's what they do very well. Plus, they have the tools at their disposal to support that. Superintendent Robinson does his community conversations where people can ask one-on-one questions. There are PTAs in every school district to engage parents. They negotiate with unions for staff and support, and they have the Department of Education for resources on policy, issues, and procedures. Whereas the town is the entity equipped to deal with land use issues. They have the Planning Department, an Open Space Coordinator, the Open Space Riverfront Trails Committee, the Town Assessors, the Building and Parks Department, Zoning Board of Appeals, Environmental Conservation Committees, the list goes on. And Clifton Park has the experience with the kind of forum we've envisioned, the kind that can provide some background, a little public education on land issues, workshops and charrettes for small group brainstorming, and professionals for facilitating these discussions. That's what they are good at. In essence, the public owns this beautiful land, whether as taxpayers to the school district or as town residents. Let the better equipped entity deal with this issue. We believe the town is ready for this discussion, and the voters would like to see it begin before another vote in May. It is time for the school board and the town to work together and come to an agreement on the reasonable transfer of this property to the town of Clifton Park, and for the school to return to the task for which they have consistently shown the highest ability, managing one of the largest school districts in the capital region. With that being said, I'm going to do each copy. Thank you, Susan.
Hi, I'm David Miller, 12 Hidden Valley Lane, and I've spoken to you before on the topic of the Central Park for Clifton Park and the region. I come here today as a resident, 28 years, 4 children to the Shen District, member of the Shen Education Foundation Board, and chair of the Open Space Trails and Riverfront Committee for the town of Clifton Park. I just want to agree with all the comments of Susan and others tonight. And I think one of the most important elements of healing is moving forward. And I think in Bill's comments of bringing together a dialogue between the town and the school board with representatives from both can help that healing. And it shows the community unity in coming together to solve a common issue and to move it forward. Yes, it was a tough campaign. And yes, there were things that were done that were, in my mind, despicable. But that's over. That's water over the dam. Now it's time that we need to move forward and do something that will truly benefit all generations. And when we speak of education, what a wonderful civics lesson this can be for all the students of Shenendehowa School District and the community as itself, of that we heard what the public wants, and we're going to move forward in a collaborative, undivisive way to have a common future. So I urge you to reach out, because I know, as chair of the Open Space Committee, the town supervisor is ready, and he's made it publicly known that he's ready to sit down and have discussions. And jointly, work together and plan to make this 34 acres a crown jewel of our community for all future generations. Thank you very much.
Do we have any other public speakers? Going once, twice? Okay, let's turn it over to Superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. As I offer a few comments, I would ask Mrs. Bush to come forward, the head of HR. Just a few quick updates. There's been a lot of conversation around the land, and the work of the conversation rests with me, and I think it's important for the public to know that while we talk about time frames and timelines, there are a lot of legal stipulations that we have to follow. Conversations will transpire in a very deliberate way, in a way that's fair, in a way that's consistent with the various perspectives shared tonight. So I want to share that because sometimes people say things are said, but what will be done? And things will happen in a way that's most effective. I don't want to disillusion folks just by mere timeline, and Mrs. Burton, I typically don't talk directly to people in the public. I will be reaching out to you at some point because I think it's important that we sit down and have some conversations to understand the time, the constraints we have, so you can have that same, so we're all on the same page in conversation. So I really appreciate your sentiments that you shared here tonight. So I'll reach out to you at some point in the coming days or so. So thank you for that. Just two quick other comments I just want to share with the board. The date for board petition, notice was sent out, is actually on the 18th because school is technically closed on the 17th. So the petition will be on the 18th at 5. Surprised Mr. Stevenson didn't do this, as well as Mr. Miller, who came forward. A plug for the Shen Foundation Green and White Gala on June 9th. It's a Friday. It's no longer June 10th. It's a Friday, June 9th at the Glenn Sanders. We strongly encourage the community to participate and come to that. So I end with that. I have some budget comments later on, but certainly I want to also echo the sentiments that it's community engagement is important. And we hope that the community continue to engage in a way that's based upon knowledge, understanding, and at the end of the day, trying to do the best thing on behalf of the students that we serve. That's ultimately our mission as well. So I very much appreciate the comments that were rendered tonight. Mrs. Bush will come forward. We have some special recognition, and I'll just pause in case people who may do want to leave, so people don't have to feel awkward to leave. We have some special recognitions tonight. We're privileged to have people sojourn here at Shen and come to that point of their journey where going on vacations permanently become a wonderful option. And so it's with a bittersweet emotions that we recognize both our tenured folks tonight as well as our retirees. As I think Megan said it best, that it is one of those things. It's great to see people excited about starting their career, and it's actually great and to see people ending their career with a smile still on their faces, because we serve and we have the best jobs in the world, the ability to shape minds, to mold minds and shape futures. I can't think of a better job to have than to be a leader for learning. So Mrs. Bush will go through the process of introducing those who are getting tenure as well as those who will be retiring, and the board will be asked to act on those tenure recommendations as well, so we can officially acknowledge those individuals.
Okay, thank you. And as Megan had said, this is one of our most exciting board meetings as far as recognizing our staff. So for tenure for our teachers and STA members, thank you. It's a successful completion of a probationary period. We use the Danielson rubric as part of our APPR process, and it's a journey, as folks have said, starting with an extensive interview process 2 or 3 years ago in some cases, numerous observations, professional growth opportunities, commitment to the community, and a commitment to excellence. So there are 21 staff members tonight that are being recommended for tenure that will actually be recognized again after September 1st, because tenure is effective September 1st. And as I read their name, or as I read your name, please come forward so that you can be recognized. With the tenure process, it's a process where observations and an evaluation is written, presented to our Professional Performance Review Committee, and then to the Board of Education. So there is many things that go into that. There's a narrative, there are some data points, and one of the things that's quite interesting is depending on the administrator, some of the tenure recs are more the narrative form, some are more technical in form. But bottom line is they all try to capture the best of our folks that we have here tonight. So I do want to take just a couple of minutes to focus on Domain 4, which is professional responsibilities. As the board members read the tenure recs, you would see some of the same comments about each of these folks. They're engaged, they're enthusiastic about learning, they are dedicated to their profession and to their students. So I wanted to take, as I said, the time to just pick out something unique or somewhat unique about each one of them. So I'm going to start with Benjamin Blaze. Ben is an elementary teacher at Shattuckon, if he would come up. With the information that was provided, Ben's first year here, he was probably here a month, and we already had the community news seeking him out to do a first-year interview on a first-year teacher. So besides all the other things, he did that, and we're here to celebrate you tonight. So, you know what, I'm going to ask you to keep moving all the way around. All right. Oh, no. You can't go on vacation yet. No, no. And I'm sorry, I'll ask you to hold your applause too, and I'll try to speed it up just a little bit. The next one is Thomas Brailer. Thomas is a science teacher at CODA, and besides engaging students in building relationships, my understanding is that his 2017 dodgeball championship, he was the leader of that group. So, our next person, sorry, Michelle Brimhall, will be tenured in elementary. She's an Arenda kindergarten teacher. She has an inclusive classroom. She does a lot of community outreach with Cheryl's Lodge. And one of the most unique things about Michelle's tenure recommendation, and that I maybe wanted to demonstrate, but she has a dress on tonight, she does the Frog Five, which is some kind of... Oh, you don't do the Frog Five? It's a whole body listening with their legs crisscrossed and their hands in their lap. So when I read that, that just jumped out at me like, wow, we'll have to try that. And full disclosure, our student board member is her son. So congratulations, Michelle. So in between everything else, right? All right. Our next recipient, Rachel Burr. Rachel's going to be tenured in science. She's currently at High School West. She's an active participant in many, many things at High School West, and specifically the Science Night is one of the things that she actively participates in. Our next recipient, Caitlin Campisi. Caitlin is being tenured in foreign language, and she has somewhat of a legacy here as well. Both her dad and mom were teachers here at Shenendehowa. She's in the Peace Program. She captivates student interest in all of her lessons, and we're very glad to have her as an addition. Colleen Cole, physical education teacher, currently at the high school. She has been at the elementary schools as well. She is just a positive reinforcement in everything that she does, and she's actively involved with our volleyball and basketball programs. Sure, thanks, Colleen. Lisa David, you may have heard that name. She is up for tenure in art. She came to us from another district with several years of experience, talented, team-oriented. She recently participated with many others in the Shensational, and if you had a chance to see it, she worked on the Threads of Shen, which is just a beautiful tapestry of our culture and our communities, and it's currently at the district office on display. Lisa has also donated or allowed us to borrow some of her artwork for the HR office. That was part of the interview. But welcome. Thank you. All right, Samantha DePace. Samantha is an English teacher at the high school. She's highly organized, she's a good communicator, and she does a lot of collaboration with our special ed. Lauren Duncan. Lauren Duncan is a chemistry teacher at the high school. She's continued to demonstrate growth as a professional. I thought that was extremely important because one of the things with tenure, as we said, it's a process. So we don't expect all of our teachers to come in with the same experiences or be at the same area, but we want to make sure that they are capable of demonstrating growth as a professional. She's an advocate for her students. She's participated a lot in the community, dodgeball, chaperone the prom, apparently, and the science bowl. So it's here. I think we'll have to keep it around. Chad Hagner, physical education is the tenure area for Chad. He's currently at Scano Elementary School. He has positive and supportive interactions with all of his students. He's participated with our professional development with the Teach channel, and he was one of the first teachers that not only participated, but we have used his as an exemplar working with other teachers. He's actively involved with Scano, and Mrs. Florio has invited him to many, many committees. the save, the wellness, intramurals, volleyball, lacrosse, and that was just what I could get done in a couple minutes. Our next person, Rebecca Hanford. Rebecca teaches high school mathematics. She is a whiz with instructional technology. She has the students, or she maintains a student log of their efforts, so she can assess the amount of homework and how they're doing on the homework for her students. She participated in Freshman Give Back Day. She does actively participate in the professional learning committees, and she also is involved with our softball program. Okay. Elizabeth Hoover, chemistry. We've hired some really good science teachers at the high school. She's energetic. She has a great rapport with students. She's also volunteered with our volleyball program. So, congratulations. Jessica Irwin. Jessica is being tenured as a school counselor. Jessica started in the middle schools and then moved to the high school. Both departments or both schools wanted to clone Jessica, but she's currently at the high school, and she is instrumental in helping the connection with college tours for students, bringing professionals into the workplace. And she, when she was at the middle school, she started a counseling blog for students and parents. Peter Jones. Peter is part of our social studies department. He's at the high school. He connects learning to contemporary events. And I'm sure there's lots to connect right now. He's very student-centered. He has a supportive classroom. He participates, or he's leading the history club. He participated in the Luke Strong Olympics. And something unique about Peter, he won the chili cook-off in 2017. Sometimes you don't know what's going to be on a chili. Hannah Kean. Hannah is a mathematics teacher at CODA. Hannah is imaginative. She delivers clear and concise mathematics instruction to our students. She was a key instrumental person in the Support Our Troops Club at CODA, and she's very tech savvy. We still have more. Kelly Ann Keller, tenured in elementary. She is at Arenda. She came to us with experience. She's confident in everything that she does. She's reflective. She participates in the ski club at Arenda, and she also has been an active participant in encouraging students in the ridiculously fun nights that they have. Emily Matthews, also tenured for elementary at Shattuckon. Emily has all of her students participate in Team Matthews. She encourages accountability through many things and relates many of the students to some sports things. She also participates in the common classroom, very effective at all levels, especially elementary school. And a unique thing about Emily, she stepped in and led the Shattuckon sing-along when someone else was out. So talents that we are just discovering. So Superintendent's Conference. Lisa Napolitano, elementary at Octay, currently grade 5. She's a classroom and community leader. She encourages voracious readers in her classroom. She has a wall of fame for student writers. She's participated in the Octay Variety Show and the 5th grade giving project, just among some of the things. And as I said, the highlights that I've been giving you is less about the instructional and the quality that we have in the classroom and more of the domain 4 and how folks are connecting with kids outside of the classroom. Sandra Preston. Sandra is recommended for tenure as English as second language teacher, our ESL. She's currently at Orangen in Shattuckon. She embraces cultural diversity. She's been an excellent resource for others in all departments. She encourages family involvement, and she uses the Class Dojo, which is an interactive program to encourage students to participate in their own behavior. So, congratulations. Kristen Schramm, tenured in mathematics. Kristen's face may look familiar to some of you. She was our accelerated math teacher at the elementary school for several years and then chose to move to the high school. She has a deep understanding of her students as learners. This is her second tenure area, and she's a member of many of the clubs, and she actively works with the Shen Pride Club. And Mr. Michael Welch. Michael is a physics teacher who will be tenured in science. He's creative. He's focused on student outcomes. He uses the flipped classroom approach. He collaborates with colleagues, and the unique thing about Michael is that he has a cafe physics. It's not Starbucks, I don't think, but he has extra help for students, and he provides hot chocolate and donuts for the students at cafe physics. This is our class of 2017 tenure recipients at this time.
At this point, a slight change in schedule, but I'll ask for a motion if we want to vote on them right now. Mr. Casey first, Mr. Gilbert second. Any comments, questions?
Congratulations, amazing.
Very talented group. We look forward to seeing you at the reception in September. We look forward to hearing all the great things that will happen in your career as you continue here. So thank you very much. Thanks for all your hard work. All in favor?
Yeah, you guys stay still. We'll come to you.
Yeah. Well done. I know. They made it easy. Nice job.
We've never done that.
Do you know what everybody leaves and it gets air in here?
Yeah, but it's still hot.
We gotta have some
Tyrese will be a
We're
little
going to do it with Tyrese.
Yeah.
It'll be quick.
So, Bob, maybe you stand with Jill and give out the certificates.
Okay.
That's gonna empty out.
They gotta wait till the transition.
We got action after that.
And now
And
there's
how is this good?
Yeah.
there'll be more air.
Okay, thank you.
We're excited.
All right.
Here, wait.
So they're hugging each other.
No, let them.
Do Tyrese.
They will. They're all leaving. They're just saying goodbyes.
So we'll continue with the recognition of, so I would say to some of our newbies, don't leave yet. Watch your colleagues who are retiring and see the smiles on their faces. So at this point, we would like to recognize some of our colleagues who at the end of the year will be writing their last sentence on the chapter here at Shen. So if you could just give us the time and attention to do that as well.
Okay. So we have several folks that are retiring either on June 30th or have already retired, and we invited them back tonight for recognition. We want to thank them for their many, many years of service. And we will start with our non-instructional folks. Some folks are here, some are not. If you are here when it call your name, will you please step forward so that we have a certificate for you and we can give you some special recognition. So with the non-instructional support staff, there is 514 years of experience and interactions with students. And our folks that have submitted their letters and are smiling. Jerry Ballin, she was the senior account clerk typist at Dakota. She did retire in February. She was here 20 years. Robert Charbonneau, bus driver, 4 years. Many people, this is a second or third career for them as well. Nancy Chatlin, elementary school monitor, 26 years. James Donahue, cleaner, 29 years. I believe I saw James. Okay. Okay. Congratulations. Thank you. This is Mr. Presley.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Congratulations.
All right. Karen, oops, I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry, James. Thank you for coming tonight. Karen Hardigan, after 9 years. Eddie Hernandez, automotive repairer, 18 years. Mildred Millie Caroli, and from Scano, and we're not accepting it, no. 29 years, senior school monitor.
Congratulations. Thank you very much for your
29 years, wow. Pam Loftus, principal typist, she had worked in informational services after 16 years. James Martin, bus driver, 15 years. Connie Mayville, elementary school monitor after 8 years. I believe it's Connie here tonight? Okay. Scott McNamee, building custodian, 33 years. Dwight Moore, bus driver, 27 years. Marianne Moran, food service, 32 years. Marianne's here. I know, I was here back. My salads have not been the same.
Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Grilled cheese, tomato soup, sweet potato fries.
She knows his menu.
Thank you.
Pat Pallone, typist in community service, 18 years. George Palmer, motor equipment operator, he delivers all the food to each of the buildings, 23 years. The next one, I would like him to come up, Ken Patnod, 30 years with the district. Director of Facilities.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Nice job, Bob.
Thank you. Thank you.
Donna Riley, elementary school monitor, 17 years. Linda Salvaggio, food service helper, 17 years. Linda Shavi, typist, 26 years. Rosemary Starker, school monitor, 19 years.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Doctor.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Worked with our middle school students for many, many of those years at Gowanna. Lori Todorov, Acadia, typist in the attendance office, 19 years. Cynthia Williams, teacher aide, 26 years. Donna Wiseman, teacher aide, 24 years. And Suzanne Yeager, bus driver, 29 years. Those are our non-instructional staff. On our instructional, with our instructional staff, there were 9 teachers that have submitted their letter of retirement, and one who had retired a little bit earlier in the year, and I believe she's here tonight. So we'll start with Gail Cameron. Gail is an elementary teacher, and she's been in the district for 18 years. Mr. Jim Carice, or Coach Carice, is a teacher. "29 years in the district. Congratulations, and a lot of championships."
And I coached your
Congratulations.
brother a
Yes.
million years ago.
Oh.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And congratulations. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Absolutely.
Thanks, Jim. Carol Murata, special education teacher after 13 years. Christine McGrath, family and consumer science teacher, 21 years in the district at the middle school. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Ider Randazzo, an art teacher, 12 years in the district. Deborah Reynolds, school psychologist, currently at Tasago, 27 years. Is Deborah here tonight? Susan Schmidt, elementary teacher, 11 years with the district. Lori Valenti, music teacher, 24 years with the district. Lori is really smiling because she has already retired. So, she's going to come back and sub. Congratulations. Thank you. Thanks for coming back. Our next person to be recognized tonight has been with the district 30 years. Our teacher at Gowanna and at the middle schools. He has done a wonderful job with many of our students, and he has kept me challenged and employed when I was the principal at Gowanna. Mr. Ray Waite, 30 years.
I feel like your sister. Thank you very much. Okay, Dr. Robinson, thank you. Thank you. I'd just like to say thanks to everybody. 30 years has been a long time, but most of the time it's like a shower. I'll get in a shower of rain. But anyways, my kids got 2 great educations out of this district, and my son's a first lieutenant in the Army, and my daughter just got hired at Ellis Hospital and hasn't graduated from college yet for nursing. So they've done well. So I want to thank everybody, administrators, teachers, board members. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. And along with our teachers and our non-instructional staff who've been recognized this evening, we have one of our administrators who has submitted his letter of retirement for the end of the school year, and that's Mr. Don Flint. And there'll be many, many things said about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Bush. As you see, this is the reason why the work is so important. And I think Megan said it best. This is a special night because it's a night that we recognize the tremendous diversity of talent that we call Shen. And certainly, I want to extend my appreciation and thanks to all those who served in retiring, and for those who are excited about having the next 30 years of their career here. I tell you, this is a great place to do it. So thank you very much as well. We'll transition and continue with our budget presentation because without a budget, we might be having some other introductions. So with the permission to the board, I'll continue with that piece of it. Yeah, this we go fast.
Years of service, I know, a lot of other dedications, you know.
Here's the audience.
You went blank.
Yes. So for tonight's purposes, it's more so a presentation to have the board adopt the budget. And so it's great that we started with a large crowd, and we're ending with those faithful few as well. So just a few highlights, and I won't go into a lot.
We can hear you just fine.
It's all good.
Just for a couple of things. So this pretty much summarized the next steps with the process. The process started about early October, a lot of iterations, a lot of behind-the-scenes number crunching, a lot of program design, a lot of program review, program evaluations, a lot of discussions. And so we're now to the point where just an overview presentation for the board to formally adopt the budget, which we will put forth to the voters on May 16th to vote on. Sometimes people confuse that with, oh, I thought the budget has already been adopted. It's a two-phase process. It's adoption by the board and then a public referendum by the voters itself. So 3 things that will be voted on the 16th. The first one is the budget itself, which I'll review very briefly here. We also have a bus purchase resolution that was presented to the board by Mr. Karam, and then the 2 seats for the Board of Education. At this point, we don't know who will be those candidates. The deadline for the petition, as I noted before, is April 18th. Initially, we had said the 17th, but school is technically closed on the 17th, so the deadline is on the 18th at 5. To highlight again, the public vote is on May 16th. We start early and we go pretty much all day and all night from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. right here in the Gowanus Gymnasium is where we have the budget vote. A couple things to highlight, and this is an important piece of it because we often hear, and it's been touted quite frankly, more of a political thing, the notion of a tax cap and schools having a tax cap. And so I just want to highlight that difference. So this column, the column here, represents the tax cap column. So in other words, if we were to have stuck with the cap and at the max cap, the proposed budget would have been 170 million. However, our budget that we're proposing to the district at this point, to the board at this point, is 169.9. So below the cap. And so that's a key piece of it because come with that stipulation of below the cap is also a rebate for taxpayers. So in essence, whatever the difference between last year's tax bill and next year's tax bill, using those 2 juxtaposed, there's a rebate sequence as a result of the district being below the cap. So I share that because oftentimes people worry about the tax impact. So right now, that's the law in New York, that rebate occurs and people get that difference back as a result of us being below the cap. So the cap has some significant impact for the district as well as for taxpayers. So again, this just kind of highlight the cap. The cap would have caused a budget of about 2.6. The budget that we're proposing is 2.19. So there's a difference between those 2 proposals. Am I blocking? I feel like I'm blocking you.
You're all right, we can hear you.
This graphic is important because it puts the budget into context. Oftentimes people hear a singular number and without having the context, you don't have appreciation of it. So we always do a 5-year review so people have some sense of where the district, where we go, where we've been, but more importantly, kind of predict also where we're going. Because we try to keep the budget on average around that 2% mark. And so you see the 5-year average is a little over 2%. This budget is 2.19. Comparison to the budget that we're living in right now is 2.10. So a very flatline approach to the budget process as we move forward. So a big piece, a big uncertain piece for us was the state budget. And the last time we met, we had some real concerns because the governor and the legislature had approved or agreed upon an extender, which if would have allowed, would have extended until May 31st, which is tremendously problematic for us with our budget vote being on May 16th with the adoption tonight. That would have been a major issue for us. And so we're pleased because the state actually passed the budget. And so with that state budget came some adjustment and foundation aid. So I just want to focus on this goal area here for a second because that kind of shows the change. This column with the 27 million governor's budget is what was in the governor's budget proposal. So prior to the passage of the state budget, the only numbers we had was the governor's proposal. So that almost kind of became the worst case scenario, recognizing that often the Assembly and the Senate will add more to the budget than typically what the governor proposes. So for us, the shift the major shift for us was right here in the foundation aid of about a difference of about 296,000 from what the governor proposal to what the final budget has right now. So the difference that you see later on in tax levy impact is really the result of that. Some of the other differences that you may see here is a formula aid expenditure difference. So in other words, we spend and we get reimbursed more so. But the big line that we were all watching was the foundation aid line because as a school district, up until this year, our foundation aid, quite frankly, has been flat probably my entire time here at Shen. So it's been a real concern for us in terms of getting some additional aid support to not only support additional programs, but also minimize the tax impact. And so we're pleased to see that adjustment in foundation aid. So it's 296,000 more than the governor's, but it's also 740 more than the prior year. So it's a pretty sizable adjustment for us as a school district. So we're pleased with that piece of the equation. So with that being said, again, keeping that gold color in mind, our total state aid package is about $47,000. And yes, while we're pleased with adjustment, keep this in mind too. That $47,000 is a little bit lower than where $47 million is actually a little bit lower than where we were in 08-09. And so we're still relatively flat in state aid, but we're starting to climb back up the hill, particularly after the GEA and some adjustments were made. So we're back on the upswing, if you will, in terms of state aid. So we're pleased with where we are. Certainly don't want that to be to go unnoticed. That's make a huge difference for our budget and particularly huge difference for our taxpayers. So with that being said, again, we try to keep the color coding so you can see the impact directly. The tax cap levy, which is the big piece that I think in many cases the public talks about, what's the tax cap implication of this? So with the tax cap, the levy would have been, the levy limit is $119 million. With our initial proposal that we initially proposed to the board 2 weeks ago, we were at a levy of 118.86. So just to kind of use percentages as difference, the tax cap limit is 2.97. What we initially proposed prior to knowing what the final state budget was would have been 2.39. With now having the state budget, so essentially that 290 plus thousand that I just offered before, essentially reduce the tax levy. So we're not proposing an increase in our budget. We're simply proposing a reduction in the tax levy as a result of the additional state aid. So now we're looking at a budget with a tax levy impact of 2.1%. To put that in perspective further, that's about 0.87, almost 1% lower than the tax cap limit, and about $1 million lower than the tax cap limit. And I say that because we don't build a budget by saying, okay, well, you know, here's all we can maximize, let's go to that max. We build a budget saying, okay, what's reasonable from a tax implication, and what continues to provide some enhancements within the school district as we move forward. And so that's the difference between. The red here is the difference between the tax levy cap and where we're proposing the budget. I'll stop there in case there are any questions, because this is probably the most significant piece of this whole conversation. So with that being said, we're proposing Proposition 1 on the ballot on May 17th will be a budget of $169.9 million. Right now, we always do these kind of simulation calculation that for a house with an average assessed valuation of $250,000. Again, the key to that, $250,000 of assessed valuation doesn't mean $250,000 market value. In fact, your market value is probably upwards of $300,000 or more. So just to kind of keep that perspective.
perspective. And so when we look at that piece of it, we try to say, what's the impact on it? So it's about a $47 difference in terms of what you would pay for taxes before. So it gives some gauge, some perspective in terms of what people say, what does that mean from a tax impact? Something that we must note, the board approved, it was recommended the board approve the veteran tax exemption. To this point, we don't have any information on the veteran tax exemption. However, 2 points I want to note: that the illustration that we used back in, I think it was February, was based upon exemption K. The exemption that was approved by the board was the basic exemption, which was significantly less than exemption K. So we had some illustration that talks about the potential impact. That potential impact per person is on average will be lower because we have a lower base. However, at this point, we don't have that information. We typically won't get that information until probably June, July, when we get all the valuation information for the purpose of generating tax bills. So I just wanted to put that on there so people know that that exclusion still has to be calculated into the formula as when we prepare tax bills. So at this point, we don't have that information. It's generated by the county. The municipality is provided to the county provided to us, and we use that to generate tax bills in August for September distribution. The second proposition is the bus resolution. Again, for the purpose of public who may be entering this conversation at this point, we have a bus replacement plan, and every year this is a pretty extensive review that we go through, and we try to keep it about replacing about 21 buses each year to keep a cycle high 10 on the industry standards, about 7 year on average to keep buses. For perspective, again, for the public, we go about 2 million miles a year, 206 buses on the road, transporting about 13,000 kids. And you say, why 13,000? Well, we transport a ton of kids in private parochial and all over the place. So that kids who live in Shen that may not go to Shen school. So that's a combination of that transporting piece of it. At least we have the capacity to transport those students. So a lot of mileage, and so therefore we try to have a replacement cycle so we don't have aging buses on the street, so to speak. So safety becomes a big point of concern. And then the third piece of the proposition, as I mentioned before, the 2 seats and respective candidates for the board. So on the April 25th meeting, 25th is our next meeting, we'll recognize those candidates because we'll know on the 18th who the candidates will be. So on that night, we'll invite the candidates to come, and not a candidate speak, but just simply recognize those individuals at that meeting on the 25th. So essentially, this statement kind of wraps up how we look at the budget process. It's truly not about dollars and cents. It's about our ability to provide quality programs for our students. And so when we talk about the budget to the public, I often say to people, I don't talk about numbers. I talk about what we do. We provide programming services to kids, and the numbers are available for those who want to look at the numbers. But it's really about, if people think that we're providing quality services to our students, they'll vote accordingly, and recognizing that people have different reasons why they vote yes or no. It's not our place to tell them how to vote, but it's certainly our place to give them information so they can be informed in doing so. So we're looking forward to the voting process on May 16th here in Guyana. The process in terms of who's eligible to vote is the same process, and something that's a sentiment that I heard actually after the land vote, a question that came up a couple of times. People say, well, suppose I don't own a house. Well, you don't have to be a property owner to vote. The stipulations by law are pretty simple. 18 years of older, Shen residents for the last 30 days, and having an ID. So that was almost a misnomer that people thought that they had to be a property owner to vote. That's not the case at all. So I want to make sure that we clarify that. Absentee ballots and things of that nature will be available for individuals as a part of the process. In fact, we'll start the process pretty soon this week. And again, the vote is on the 16th here in Guyana. We're looking forward to people coming out and hopefully showing their support for the things that we do here at Shen. Thoughts, concerns, criticisms?
Great job as always. Amazing.
I noticed just in my neighborhood, the question of U.S. citizen is one that there's a lot of confusion. And, I mean, not that we can do anything about it, but there is confusion in terms of the public.
It is always a tough one because you have people who have work visas, for example, and yet that doesn't necessarily qualify under the voting standard. It's always one of those tricky ones, and every year we have someone that we have to have the conversation with, and it's not always an awkward conversation because people make the effort, and you got to tell them thanks but no thanks, but still support us. So it's one of those things, but we try to get information out as much as we can, and I think for the most part, people understand the progression of it. Our students who are 18 years old, they often get excited about it because their first chance to exercise their civic right and responsibility to vote. So we certainly want to do that, and I know a lot of teachers who have certain senior level courses really talk to kids about the right to vote, the ability to vote, especially if you're age 18. So on the agenda is the budget adoption, so to speak, and the board has, and we have on the website, our roadshow schedule. We're all over the place, and Mrs. Blaber reminded me I'll be at transportation tomorrow morning. So we not only go internally in terms of buildings and departments, but we also have a series of road shows. Myself and Mrs. Wetmore, we go to town meetings, senior citizen centers, PTA meetings. So we're a lot of places to provide information to the public about the budget and provide an opportunity for people to ask questions about the budget as well. Further, Mrs. DeFisciana does a great job of having tons of information on the website. A newsletter will be coming out to every household that outlines, highlights some of the program additions as a result of this budget, as well as give some of the specific information that people need to know to cast their votes on the 16th. Good?
Good. Okay, move over to policy and regulations, first reading, Mrs. Carmen.
Good evening. We have 13 policies going forward tonight for first reading.
Just give you a couple of minor changes to 7, 6, 10.
Sure.
Very minor. And I have a question about 7618. And I wonder, I think some of this language is new since policy review looked at it, specifically aversive behavioral intervention. Do we have to, is that required that we have that language?
So we, the question about the language of versatile, that's a comment, when I first saw it, and quite frankly, you had to look it up to make sure that what I thought it meant is actually what it meant. It's a regulatory piece by the State Education Department. It's done specifically to ensure that the use of it does not occur. And so it's one of those, because sometimes policy, if things are written to, policy is usually written to be permissive. This is one to say that those type things should not occur within schools, because unfortunately, there have been situations where those things occur. And so that's why the policy language was adjusted to do that as well. And after the policy review, this was one of those policies, there was a few questions that we had, and both Mrs. Carmen, Mrs. Malad shared some things with me. We made some modification to the language, and so we hope particularly the people on policy review, but certainly our board members, to look at that again to make sure that we captured some of the clarification, because there's a difference on timeout rooms. Sometimes people say kids need a timeout. Well, that's more of a intervention strategy. Timeout room is a very technical description that only applies to certain kids with certain IEP stipulations. So we had to make sure that we were very clear with that, because people use terms interchangeable. Sometimes, even sometimes parents at home say, I'm going to give my kid a timeout, go upstairs. Well, it's not that same definitional piece of it. So we want to be very clear, and the state education regulations are very specific on some of those things. So we hope that we capture that in a way that makes sense, because oftentimes you have regulation language that you're trying to put into our regulation for administration purposes. Sometimes it's not as smooth and fluid, so we want to make sure that makes sense. So please, any feedback you have, or any board member have, particularly on that one, let us know.
Yeah, that one in particular, I'd like us to look at again, because the aversive behavioral intervention, because it does appear that under the regulations it's permitted. It does appear that the commissioner can give permission to use it. It does appear that the parents can give permission to use it. And my reaction to that is, oh, hell no.
Well, it's one of those things that it's so I don't want to prolong this conversation too much. It's the whole notion that, okay, for states that have death penalty, and the whole notion of even the death penalty shouldn't be cruel in killing someone, which is kind of oxymoron. Okay, I'm going to kill you, but I'm not going to do it cruelly. And that's the reason why they talk about how even death penalties are administered, should be very, I forgot the term that they use, but basically humane, yes. And I always thought that was such a contrast in term. And so when you think about certain situations, there are practices that certain strategies are used for certain kids under certain circumstances. And the part of the policy is saying that these should be the absolute rare cases with all the necessary approval before this is executed. So that's what that policy really speaks to. So it's not that it's against the law. It's basically saying that this is one of those absolutely rare cases, and there are many, many people that needs to go through before that becomes something that's even exercised.
So have we ever had an instance in our history?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So although my hope would be that when we review this again, that there's a statement that all this is possible and that the board's position is that it will not be used as Shen. I can't envision a circumstance where that's what we would do as opposed to removing the student from the school environment or some other thing that's not that, even though it's permitted. Yeah, that one's tough.
No, I know. It is one of those tough policies. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions on policy first reading? Okay. Move to consent items. First up is the treasurer's report. Motion to go through the treasurer's report. Mr. Casey first, Mr. Gilbert second. Any comments or questions? Okay. All in favor? Okay. For minutes, I'd like to combine 1 and 3 because we have an abstention in number 2. So motion to vote on minutes March 7th and March 28th. Mrs. Rajat first, Mrs. Stevenson second. Comments, questions? All in favor? And back to March 21, Todd was not here then. So motion on March 21 minutes. Mr. Casey, second. Mrs. Stevenson, comments, questions? All in favor? Okay.
I abstain.
And one abstention from Mr. Gilbert. Action items. First one, adoption of the 2017-2018 school budgets. Mrs. Blaber, second Mrs. Rajat. Any comments, questions? We had an opportunity before. Anything else? Okay, all in favor?
With gratitude.
Action item 2, adoption of New York State property tax report card. I believe we've seen this before. Motion to vote on this one. Mr. Casey, second. Mrs. Stevenson, comments, questions? All in favor? Number 3, we have 4 bids, interscholastic sports supplies, healthcare supplies, PE supplies, fuel tank removal. Motion to bring this to the floor. Mrs. Rajat, second. Mr. DeLallo, any comments or questions on it? All in favor? And number 4, certification of the vote for the land sale. Motion to bring this to the floor. Mr. Casey, Ms. Rajat, second. Any comments or questions on this? All in favor? And number 5, a contract revision, Northeast Petroleum. Motion to bring this one up. Mrs. Stevenson, second. Mr. Gilbert. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Number 6, a contract for the Cleaning Management Institute. Motion to bring this one up. Mr. Gilbert, second. Mr. Casey, any comments or questions? All in favor?
Can I just make one quick comment?
Go ahead.
This is one of those neat things I think it's important to point out to the board. We've been talking about professional development and investing in our people, and a big push on the non-instructional side of the house with both Mrs. Bush and Mrs. Wetmore is how do we do more of those things? And this is one of those that we have this outfit, came and did a pilot with our cleaners and our custodians. And, you know, it's interesting because I would venture that it's probably in every other house. You know, people say they cleaned their house, but clean isn't as clean as you think it actually is until you get people coming with infrared and all those kind of things, and you realize, oh, okay, you know, using the same water in the same area may not necessarily be as clean. And so it's an interesting piece because, you know, it's one of those things, we hire people to clean, but no one ever said, how do we train you how to clean appropriately? We make the assumption that our cleaners who, and especially when you think about people working second shift, third shift, that yes, they'll go through, they'll do garbage, they'll do what I
call superficial type cleaning type things. So this outfit is coming in not only to talk about how do we clean better, but also how do we schedule things better? How do we look at some of those kind of things? And it's important when you think about the magnitude of use within our buildings. And so I'm very excited about this piece of it because it adds a different level of, if you want to say, professionalism to something that we often all take for granted. We don't know that our garbage can exist until it's full. And those type things. And so we want to make sure, and so I want to point out to the board because this is one of those things that Mrs. Wetmore has been pushing and Mr. Turlott has been really pushing. And I think it's something that's really going to change the dynamics of how, particularly our cleaners, people who often go unnoticed within buildings, recognize that we're investing in them to be better professionals. So just as a board, I think it's just one of those neat things that I didn't want you to miss as we move forward.
Number 7, action item for the establishment of the Erica Ledoux Memorial Scholarship. Mrs. Blaber first, Mrs. Rajat second. Any comments or questions?
This is very generous of her family.
With gratitude. Okay. All in favor? Number 8, I'm going to abstain from, but this is recognition of Friends of Shen Science and Health Booster Club. Motion to bring this one up. Mrs. Stevenson, second, Mr. Casey. Any comments or questions?
Great idea.
All in favor? Excuse me, I'm abstaining, so 6.
You didn't pull it down quick enough, sorry.
It's like an auction.
Number 9, scholarship and local grant donations. Motion to bring this one forward. Mr. Casey, second, Mrs. Rajat. Comments, questions?
Gratitude.
Gratitude. Okay. All in favor? 7? Okay. And now let's move to Mrs. Mylod for the acceptance of special education placements.
Questions on the recommendations of the committees?
You answered my question, thank you.
Motion to bring this to the floor. Mrs. Blaber, second. Mrs. Stevenson, comments? None. All in favor? And then approval of staffing recommendations. Mrs. Bush. Motion from Mrs. Blaber. Can I get a second? Mr.
She was
Casey.
making a motion.
She's all talked out after all those intros.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor? All right. And back to policy and procedures, second reading, Mrs. Carmen.
So we have a significant amount of policies going for second readings tonight that were presented at the March 7th board meeting.
Motion to bring this, Mr. Casey. Any seconds? Mrs. Rajat, any more comments?
If I can, yeah. So just, especially with the sports physical forms and students' physicals, I know it's something we do here at Shen, or I should say you guys do, is to have the summer physicals for sports throughout the year. And I think we're just really grateful to have that program, and to have that help and assistance. And I think it is really helpful, especially for those of us who do sports. So thank you very much for those who do that.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Cameron. And I think a lot of people take that for granted. That in many school districts, schools don't arrange that. It's on the parents to do the physical and come. But for one, for ease of our process, and 2, for the sheer magnitude of the number of kids we have participating, it only makes sense. And trust me, we have parents take advantage of that big time. It's a great process. Our school physician and our nurses and our athletic trainer, those guys have a system down packed that this process flows very quickly, very easily, and very cost effectively as well. When you think about it, if people had to go out and do independently, those type things. So a great point. I'm glad you pointed it out.
Any other comments? Okay, all in favor? Okay, at this point, we go back to public comment. So did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to point one thing to the board, and I mentioned it to Mr. Presley and Mr. Gilbert before. We were initially scheduled to have a capital project update on the 25th, and I mentioned to them that we met today with the architects, and we were hoping that we we're going to have some news from the State Education Department. And you know, sometimes you say no news is good news. Well, no news is bad news. Still no news. So it's pointless to have them come and regurgitate the same thing that they've done before. So now we're moved it back to the second meeting in May. Hopefully by then we'll have some news to share with you as a board in terms of what does that mean for the capital project, be it this summer or moving forward. So we'll see, but we still have the traffic study, which is going to be a neat one to to share with the board on the 25th.
Back to public comments. Any comments from members of the public at this point? Okay.
Can I take a minute?
Potentially any members of the board?
Yes.
Mrs. Blaber?
If I could, first, let me apologize for my departure. I had an urgent family matter to take care of, so no disrespect to my colleagues or to particularly the tenure recipients and the people who are making public comments. So I want to say it's been almost 9 years since I started in board service. There's been a lot of celebrations and a lot of challenges, and my singular goal has been to do what's right for kids, and it has been extremely rewarding, and I am as confident as I can be that there has been a positive contribution to the work of the board and the district as a whole. So I'm just going to publicly acknowledge that this is my last term. I'm not going to be seeking re-election in May, and I've made this decision with my family over a period of time, and know that I will continue to nudge and do my best to continue on for the rest of this term, and be grateful for all the opportunities and the liaison assignments that I've had over time. So we'll just continue on until June.
I would like to publicly commend you. I'd like to take the opportunity to be first. When I showed up, you were the board president. You accepted me into the community very graciously. Also set a tone of accountability to work ethic to the students. I'm always going to remember you as the board member who said students first. I think you brought that forward every time when we had a discussion as something that we have to think about. There's a lot of different stakeholders within our district, outside our district, and we all need to have this continued message that it's about students first. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
Any other comments?
Oh, let's not do that. Let's just move
We
on.
have a special recognition toward the end. We'll make her cry then, so that's okay.
Mr. DeLello.
Yeah. If you've ever read anything about grief, there's an article I once read about how sometimes younger people have the expectation that older people, because they've seen so many losses in their life, can handle it better. And they said that's not true. I can tell you, it's not true.
Thank you.
All right. Let's close out public comments. Anything you want to bring for policy review? If not, we'll go move to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Mr. Casey, second. Mrs. Rajat. All in favor? Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.